Oh, fuck. I do not know how to start this. Genuinely, I do not know how to start this. I guess from the beginning then. Um, hey, it's nighttime here, and I know the first question is probably gonna. Okay. Yeah, it's been a while. Um, yeah, I've been trying other things on YouTube, and generally have been busy. Outside of YouTube, I've also been kind of busy. Um, yeah, hence why I don't really do live streams via Streamyard. Plus, also all the stupid nonsense they've added makes it a pain in the neck to even use. Via OBS. Um, I guess first question, some may be wondering, like, oh, what's changed since I last went on live stream, other than the fact that I can't seem to get my mic to be loud enough without it picking up too much background noise. I got my driver's license. I got my first car, and I I guess I have a job. I work with my dad now. For the most part. So yeah, things have been kind of busy. Like, on the Train Z side of things have been kind of hectic. It's just I'm pretty. If people want an example, look at the Big Fruit video, and you get a pretty good example of what I mean by hectic. And I mean this in the most honest way possible. This community's not exactly, and I'm not helping it, but this community's not the best in terms of drama. Still, this fucking kid. Okay. Give me a second. I'm booting up Train Z now. It's being a pain in the neck because funny thing is I'm currently saving up for a storage upgrade so I can switch to Train Z 2019 permanently, or 22, whichever one is more stable. Here's another fun thing. I've been getting into Railworks. I don't have it really ready to go at the moment, but yeah, I've been getting into Railworks. Where is? I'm still trying to. I apologize. Things seem a little slow. I'm trying to relearn the layout of this app, considering I don't barely use it. Like yeah, like Streamyard is something I don't barely use anymore because it's just a lot of the stuff they introduce to it is an unnecessary, and it just makes it way more confusing than it should be. Hence why I'm struggling right now to find my way around things. This is a big mess. I guess this stream is more of just me trying to get back into the swing of things with StreamYard. Who knows? Maybe if things slow down, I'll do more in the future. Considering, as of right now, I'm currently other than doing Trin Z stuff, I'm making plans for another rail fanning trip. This one out to Hocking, the Hocking Valley Scenic Railway, which is decently far. I'm not going to say exactly where I am, but it's decently far, like at least a 3 to 5 hour trip. So who knows? I might end up staying overnight in Nelsonville, which is where it's located. But I have looking so checking the comments. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Just again, things have been kind of hectic recently. Everything's seemingly moving fast. For example, I'm an uncle. But anyway, yeah, Trinzy shit stuff. Yeah, I've been trying to hold back on swearing as much as I used to. I've been trying to, get more of a filter. But anyway, I've been also in the time I've been doing things for Train Z, I have been more making stuff for my canon. And yes, I made sure to check number one, number uno of everything. I made sure these are allowed to be reskinned. And from my research, yes, they are. So I guess I'll show off some stuff for my head canon of Thomas and Friends, aka the nighttime canon. And I'll even throw in some stuff I've been working on the American side of things. Just give me a bit here. Just be patient. Things are going to be a little hectic, a little slow, and a bit. If I've seemed a bit unsure, I apologize. Again, let's just say I'm not going to go public with it because no offense, a lot of some stuff you don't really need to go public with. But let's just say some things personally, things have happened between friends, and I've just been kind of jumpy a little. And also, apologies if my mic is really quiet. I've actually kind of rearranged my setup since I last was on Streamyard. I actually lost my old boom arm, or actually, I should say, it doesn't fit on my new desk. So I've had to actually it's not, I haven't gotten rid of it, but I'm still trying to find a place to put it. I might see if I can possibly just drill it into my desk. I don't know. I'll figure out something for that boom arm of mine. So I can have my mic right back where I want it to be. So yeah, for now, I guess once I get these engines down, I'll do my best to explain my canon in terms of each of the characters. Some of the variants, I'm not going to be showing off engines like Henry or Gordon because their variants are yet to be finished. James, it's actually no, I forgot. I finished James last night. Yeah, I guess I'll place down. I guess it doesn't matter if they're in numerical order or not. I'll just place them down regardless. Apologies if I pause as well. Like I'm terrified at thunderstorms, and it is thundering heavy out right now. So again, apologies if something happens and I cut out. Yeah, just give me a bit to set down James's variants. Jesus, I apologize. The one. So, yeah. I think I finished Edwards. No, I didn't. No, I don't think I did. Okay, so by looks of things, Edward isn't quite finished. I have to do his Furness livery. Gordon's not finished. Hank. He's not really finished yet, but I'll show him off anyway. Actually, I guess I'll place down Henry. I'll place down the unfinished engines, all within distance of each other. Henry, I have to give him his liveries, like his World War II livery. He has his current day livery and his 1920s livery after or I should say 30s livery after his rebuild, but he's yet to receive his World War II livery and his Mark One. He did have his Mark One variant, but I deleted it because I wanted to redo his Mark One variant, which will come at a later date. Gordon, I've yet to give the rest of his liveries for, so I'm still making his GNR livery, his LNER livery, his his World War II livery, um, things like that. Edward, again, he just needs his Burness livery, and he'll be all ready to go. Also, I should mention with the World War II liveries, people are probably going to ask. Yes, they're all in tangent with how they with what the livery they wear. So, for example, Thomas and Edward and even Gordon, NWR blue will have blue lining, while engines like James, who are an NWR red, will have red lining. And I think these are duck liveries. Yeah, I gotta place down duck. Um, yes, I will say this though. In my opinion, yes, engines bases are changed a little bit. Um, for example, duck here is a Great Western 8750 instead of just a regular 5700. I did this because I like the 8750s more, and in my mind, it'd make more sense for Topham to purchase something like an 8750 like instead of a 5700, because the bigger windows would do way better for shunting. And I will eventually make Duck's pre-BR liveries, so his World War II wartime black and his and his Great Western Green, original Great Western Green, which technically I've already done here. Okay, I think that's all the engines. Oh yeah, there's Bill and Ben, but I gotta do a few slight updates to their model. So their models. And what I mean by updates, I mean like a few texture upgrades, like I did with these guys over here to get like over here. So yeah, here's all the engines I made for the Nighttime Cannon so far. With Thomas, yeah, I made him the engine number 107. Thomas, in my canon, came to Sodor in 1916, the same year he was built. He replaced an older locomotive, which is currently unknown who had a shunting accident where they actually they were in an accident. That's all I really have for him right now. Is the older engine was in an accident that left it damaged beyond repair, and Thomas came as his replacement. Thomas would eventually, be painted into wartime black, the NWR wartime black, because of World War II. Following the war, however, he remained in black because he was leased to British Railways under his own request because he heard about a shunting power shortage at Brighton. Because of this, Thomas was painted. Thomas asked his crew to line him out and simply to reline him and paint him in the BR scheme. So he ended up as BR 32107. Thomas would actually come back to Sodor after 2 years, but asked to keep his livery until his overhaul, which happened in 1957, after which he returned to standard NWR blue. In 2010, he was given this NWR teal livery. Not NWR, it's RWS teal. This is the livery he currently has today. He is yet to he's yet to be repainted back into NWR blue, but it's assumed sometime this year or early next year he'll be painted back into NWR blue, standard NWR blue. Or he might keep it. Who knows? It really all depends on what I choose to do with my Thomas. This in my canon. I guess going through my canon stuff, next up is James. James, in my canon, started off as a standard LNY Class 27. It was built in 1897. I did research on the number. The engine is built in 1897, which makes him almost as old as Edward. James, in my canon, isn't as vain and is a bit more mature, but he does retain. But once again, he does retain that vain side to him, especially after his accident. James arrived on Sodor in like 1927, and actually was like wasn't painted into in the black scheme we're all familiar with from The Adventure Begins. He was in his LMS scheme as Engine 12327. James would have his accident precisely 1 month into his exactly 1 month into his service life on Sodor after being purchased by the Northwestern, and he was rebuilt into a mobile. As like so Topham so Topham so Topham requested he be like I'm stuttering up the wazoo. I apologize. But yeah, Sir Topham actually requested he be rebuilt into a mobile, and this was the result. Meet the LNYR class S27X. The only differences being the extended running board allowing for a bogey wheel at the front, as well as a slightly higher boiler pressure to allow for a higher tractive effort. Because his tender was destroyed in the original, and his original tender was destroyed in the accident, he was given a Fowler tender from a 3F. Yes, it's big. I'm bigger on him, I know. James's livery is the only livery to not have corresponding boiler bands, because his livery is actually a modified version of the Skarloey Railway livery, because there is no NWR red. This is SKR. This is SKR modified red. James would retain this livery even today, of course, until World War II, where he was painted into the wartime scheme, and being an engine with red paint, he was given a red lining. After World War II, he was painted back into his scheme until the fateful year of 2010. He decided it was time for a change, and being on the Northwestern Railway, he went into the works for an overhaul and came out surprising everyone, because he was no longer in his original red paint. He was in Northwestern Railway blue. He sometimes goes back to red on very special occasions like Godred's Day, like the Godred's Day locomotive parades, but other than that, he actually retains his new livery. You can find him in regular service today, mostly staged out of Wellsworth, running goods and passengers. Yes, I've even started to get into the specifics of where they're meant to be staged at. In my canon, the plan for Wellsworth is that it's the same layout as the RWS, but with a slightly bigger engine shed to host 5 engines. Now we're getting on to the other engines, some I've not completed deliveries for, but before we do that, I should get on to one of the other engines I properly, for the most part, completed deliveries for, Duck. Duck was built in the 1930s as an 8750 class Pioneer. In real life, engine number 8755 worked at Old Oak Common by the time he would have been bought by the Northwestern. It's especially in my canon. At Old Oak, so I changed the story to say that's where he's always worked. He never changed sheds like the real engine. You can also see that the buffer beam on a lot of the engines is still the brighter red, which I gotta go in and fix. But anyway, Duck would actually would be teased a lot because he had a problem with the springs when he was first built, causing him to shake when he moved. So because of that, he was nicknamed Duck. When he arrived on the Northwestern Railway, he actually told Sir Topham that he preferred either Duck or Monty as his nickname. He didn't mind going by either. During the whole events of Duck Takes Charge, he actually derailed himself on the points to keep the engines from just pushing him out of the way and getting into the shed. After the events of Duck Takes Charge, Duck asked to just simply be given a Northwestern Railway number, being quoted as saying that my paint scheme will do. So he was painted firstly in Northwestern lined black. Of course, I still need to modify this as I have a more consistent idea of what I want to do with the livery. Duck would work in this scheme until 1963, when he was painted in NWR blue. Duck would retain this livery throughout a lot of his service life on the NWR at this point, including Pop Goes the Diesel and A Close Shave for Duck. In 2005, Duck would be go into the works for an overhaul. It is there that he asked to be repainted back into Great Western Green, given that by this point he was working on the Little Western. So to fit in with the theme, he got himself painted in Great Western Green. And this is the livery you'll find Duck in today. He still very much retains this livery and has expressed no interest in returning to Northwestern Blue, as he's proud of his Great Western Green. Now getting on to some of these things. Edward's cannon remains mostly the same, except for the fact that he doesn't get the bigger cab or the rebuilt shape that we all know him as in the TV series. He retains his original FRK2 look. This is, of course, other than the varying liveries and his number plate on the cab here. Bill and Ben in my cannon aren't yellow or orange. I don't know what livery color they're supposed to be, and I apologize if I got them wrong. But in my cannon, they're blue. They're supposed to be in a scheme based off of NWR blue. This is what I mean by I gotta go in and update these guys, because I've updated my NWR blue to look less like the 2006 color. But it seems like, especially with Gordon here, a few things slipped through the cracks. Speaking of Gordon in my canon, even though there's many things that I'm changing about his canon. The number one thing is that him and Scotsman are not the only A3s. There's actually 4 A3s. In my own personal canon, there's 4 total A3s still around. There's Gordon, who's known as Shooting Star. There's Flying Scotsman, Pretty Polly, and also an OC of mine named Eclipse. Funnily enough, Eclipse actually works on Sodor, though I haven't shown. You might have saw a glimpse of him in one of my in the Cedric Adventures video, but I have yet to finish his face pack because I started making my own face packs for my OCs, and he doesn't have his face pack completed yet, so that's why he wasn't really shown with his faces. Next up is Henry. I'm still writing out what I want to do with Henry, but obviously you can see the first major thing right here. He's named after the Flying Kipper. He actually carries a nameplate. Now, while his liveries aren't complete, that's because I'm also going to have to create the meshes for this engine. Here's Hank's history. Hank was built in the 1940s, in the 1940s. He, obviously, is a USATC S160. Fun fact, too, of my audio sharing, I even have the right whistle on it. Which I don't think it is. I don't think it actually is. Hold on. Is it? Please tell me it is. No. Okay, I think I am. Give me a sec. I don't think I'm actually sharing with audio. Share a tab or a screen instead. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna have to share like this, which is not ideal. But anyway, this is Hank's whistle. Now, if you wonder what it is, this is a Starbrass 5 chime, which is typically what the S160, at least from my research, is what the S160s would have typically worn. And if I'm wrong, I apologize again. But from my own research, this is what I could find, that the S160s typically were seen wearing Starbrass 5s. But it also depended on the railroad. Let me just get back to just sharing the Train Z tab so I don't accidentally screw myself over and share the link to the stream, which I think I probably just did. Anyway, Hank was named after a general on the... Hank was... Before I talk about who he's named after, apologies. Getting kind of mixed here. Hank would go from railroad to railroad around the United States until ending up on the Fort Eustis Railroad as engine number 608. I chose this number as a quick fun fact because in real life, there was no 608. The Fort Eustis Railroad didn't have a 608 or a 609. So I chose a number that didn't actually exist, so I could have a more freedom creatively. During this time, Hank would meet a Mr. General Hank Hartford, who took a liking to the engine because while the S-160s he worked with typically were brash and bold, a little overconfident, Hank knew his limits and wasn't afraid to express that. Hank would end up working until 1963 when he was drawn from service. However, Mr. Hank Hartford actually ordered Hank not to be scrapped and instead be placed in storage. Being in a high position of power, the people of the people of the railroad agreed and put him in the storage. Then, in that same year, Sir Topham Hatt, who was on vacation in the United States, actually got a really shady map from a shady travel guide. And after following it, instead of getting to his luxury resort where he was supposed to be, he ended up stumbling across the yard of the Fort Eustis Railroad, the very same yard Hank was stored in. He actually found Hank intriguing, and after talking to him for a while and being noticed by General Hank Hartford, they entered discussions, and after a while, Hank was bought for $1.35 million. He was shipped away immediately. He was immediately shipped off back to Sodor, but the funny thing was that no one knew he was coming because he'd forgot to send the message with him that he had bought this engine. So you could imagine the confusion of the engines of Tidmouth Harbor when an S-160 was unloaded onto the tracks instead of their usual, and not just the usual goods. Sorry, stuttering. After the confusion was explained away by the acting controller who had only just received the message of Hank's arrival, Hank was taken into the works, and in that time, he saw Donald and Douglas, who were still at the time in NWR Lined Black, and that's the livery he chose. He also asked to be named after General Hank Hartford, hence the nameplates on him now. Hank would end up entering traffic a few months later, and as of today is still very much in active service. And has the stuttering. As of today, Hank also has the honor of being the only engine on the United States. That's the great phrase. The only engine on Sodor to have an American chime whistle. Hank's model is also currently receiving slight updates, even though I'm not working on it right now, to have proper cylinder smoke. Because, let me just pull out a random American engine of mine to show what I like to do with my engines in terms of smoke scripting. Here, let me just pull out a South Lake engine, because this is the best example I can get. Will you place down, please? We're being slow for 5 seconds! Okay, here it is. I think this is the right one. Nope. That's why. Is it the right one? No. Hold on. Apologies. This is taking. Oh, here. Okay, hold on. I have the engine. Yeah, basically how my cylinder smoke, it's not my scripting and I won't take credit for it, but how the smoke scripting I use with the cylinders, and that's the wrong engine. No, I'll show this off too, screw it. Okay, here we go, now we got the right engine. You notice how the smoke is coming out the cylinder, the cylinder cocks right there. It's in idle, it actually does this. It actually idle steam, and just like the real American engines, it shoots out the sides of the cylinders. For those who don't know what this is my fictional railroad's one of my fictional railroad's engines. This is a South Lake Railroad C30H. Well, not a typical one, mind you. This is number 127. It's preserved by a friend of mine's railroad, and yeah, it has poppet valves. Not fun to work with, I'll say that much. Typically, this is what a C3H would look like. And yes, I even have the scripting on it to allow for to actually allow for it to have toggleable things like the white walls, the Mars light, which actually does have a function, but it's using a Corona. One of my friends would rather not me show off in public, so I'm not going to show it. And also as ARN and a few custom meshes thanks to friends of mine. Except for the dome. The dome and the white walls, those are kind of my thing. I've been getting into modeling a little bit. My hope is to learn Blender enough and picturing enough that I can actually make my own locomotives. Probably not for the South Lake, but definitely some British engines. But continuing on with Hank, though. While Hank currently works on, you may be thinking just overnight, what about Hank's TVS livery? In my canon, Hank was painted in that livery for a movie. He would end up getting repainted back into a standard livery after, though. Also, at one point, he was fitted with a whistle from an LNER Grizzly A3. Only for a short time, though, and he was quickly given back his Starbrass 5. Also, yes, the smoke scripting is very much an American script. I guess next I can show off is the fleet of engines that are fleet of engines of mine that are, OCs of mine. Some of them are either receiving new liveries, new base packs, or their base packs have hit a glitch, and I'm still figuring them out. For example, my T&F Sona here. Yes, I have that. People who are outside the TNF community, if you don't like it, you can go cry about it. This is my Manor character, Wyatt. Recently I added freckles to him because IRL I have freckles, so I said screw it, it'll make him a bit more accurate, and I kind of like the look of him with it, so there you go. He is actually in canon he was one of several manors built at Croven's Gate, and was the first of the third batch of manors that, again, in my canon, my Thomas canon, were actually directly built by Croven's Gate Works. Because of that, he has Croven's Gate's name. If I remember my own lore right, there was Wellsworth, or there was, I believe, give me a second, I believe there was, again, I'm stumbling up the wazoo right now. I have to find it, because a lot of this stuff is written down in other pages, and I have to quickly pull them up. Okay, they are. So, the manors that were built by Croven's Gate was Wyatt, or 7830 Croven's Gate Manor. They went from 7830 to 7839. And in order, there was Croven's Gate Manor, Kildane Manor, Crosby Manor, Knapford Manor, Tidmouth Manor, Vickerstown Manor, Wellsworth Manor, Farquhar Manor, Ulfstead Manor, and Arlesdale Manor. Of all of them, only 3 of them. There are a total of 5 nameplates and 3 locomotives around. The engines that survive today are 7830 Croven's Gate Manor, 7836 Wellsworth Manor, and 7838 Ulfstead Manor. Ulfstead Manor is actually preserved at Ulfstead Castle, funnily enough. The 2 nameplates of scrapped engines that survive are 7835 Vickerstown Manor and 7839 Arlesdale Manor. All of them were also non-faceless. The next OC is one I've had guinea pigs fucking up my bunker over, or up my tailpipe, whichever you prefer, is this one, Cameron, the SRN15X. As you can see, from what I mentioned earlier, you can see what I mean. And yes, I have checked with the person I commissioned this from. He said, yo, I'm free to this is my commission, I'm free to reskin this. Right now, I'm kind of working on his face pack again because it seems to be hitting a glitch. Where it's I think it's something to do with the face pack, because after I modified some face textures to get them to work, it just stopped working entirely, so I've been trying to fix it. So for now, this is all, Originally, when I first had it commissioned, I used Stephanie's faces, but since I've been getting into making my own faces, it's since gotten its own face pack. Some of my older face packs I really want to go in and redo. Like, for example, the one that's on this guy, and no, this isn't a mesh edit, this is a kit bash. Bash, I've already been through this with someone before. This engine's face pack is one of my own custom ones, and one of the very first custom face packs I did. I want to go in and redo them, because the fact that they are clearly showing their age. This is Hunter. He's supposed to be a fictional class of engine, an Ellen Wire, and a Midland class, like 5F. Yeah, I'm well aware it says 3F here. But he's getting a rework. A lot of the engines you see that I'm skipping over are either being retconned or are being reworked entirely. Here's another engine, and of mine that I'm still keeping around. This is Jeremiah. He is a Raven A2. I like the Raven A2, so I figured I'd make him a C, and considering this is a model that's about to be reskinned, I went with it. And yes, this is another one. This is one of my slightly earlier custom face packs. This one's also gonna get a rework. I think when I made this one, it's meant to be, I think, Thomas's face pack matched with like several others. I'm gonna have to be more. I'm being more consistent now. For example, with Wyatt's face pack, I'm not gonna say what exactly it's a mix of because I don't want people trying to recreate it, despite the fact that the model itself. You literally can't, no offense, it's quite hard to recreate this engine because it's the Pulse Trains model with with quite a few custom meshes to make it fit and make it work. But anyway, I'm going to be fixing Cameron's face pack soon. Jeremiah's is also going to be getting a bit of an update. Also, you can see now over here, it's going to be all the current engines and OCs that I use for the railway he works on, which is the Barrow Clocksworth Railway. All of them that will be staying will be going under this new tag soon. The Genesis tag is actually the old tag for what I originally called the Genesis Railway. It's since been renamed and reworked to become the Barrow and Clocksworth Railway. I guess I should show off White's faces too, considering people don't see him a lot, considering it. Although I use him a lot in my videos, that's TNDF related, you don't really see all his facial expressions. Yeah, I realize I probably should have also went in and colored the freckles to match each face variant, but I couldn't be fucked. Walter. I admit, I'm kind of happy with how White's face has turned out, especially because these are an overhauled version of his face pack. Like the original version was fine, but I decided it was time to overhaul him. Considering that I've been using these faces for about a year or two. I decided with these ones not to go in and use new faces all over again. But I just decided to go in and give them a bit of a rework, and also, yes, I actually resurrected the very first version of this face pack. I had this version of his smile, happy face, so I decided to go in and make that part of his face pack again. Basically make it a slightly less version of the happy face. If you're and maybe wondered why he doesn't actually have a neutral face, that's because that's his annoyed face as well. His annoyed face acts as both his annoyed face and neutral. Considering IRL, a lot of my IRL friends tell me that my resting face looks annoyed, so I decided to roll with that. You can see there's a lot of engines here that, you can notice too, there's a few engines here that, that I'm skipping over entirely because, again, I want to rework them. I want to eventually go in and rework a few engines. Some engines, though, simply I might give model updates to, and that's really it. For example, Killian here. Well, funnily enough, what I actually do have a friend named Killian, but that's not why I named him this. Like, this engine, actually, I'm going to be giving it a model update soon. Plus, I'm also going to create his own face pack. Because, again, this is a generic face pack that I used. There's another engine I recently made who actually does have his own face pack, another OC of mine. This is Lance. Now, when I originally created Lance, I made him as a more sadistic engine. Basically, I made him like a more more screwed up version of Diesel. But I decided against it right last minute, and I have since changed his personality. He can be a bit brash and egotistical, considering the fact that the Granges were known as the Engine Man's engine. He's half owned by the Northwestern alongside Wyatt here. However, Lance here spends more of his time on the Barrow and Clocksworth Railway, while Wyatt here spends way more time on the Northwestern Railway, despite the fact he hates the railway. Despite the fact he dislikes the railway because of the cocky engines who live on it, according to him. Wyatt's livery, you may notice Wyatt has the number 24 on his tender. That's because in my canon, Wyatt's engine number was the 24th engine half bought, I should say, by the Northwestern Railway. Hence why he gained the number. In reality, he's BR number 7830. He worked at Old Oak Common before coming to Sodor. Some of these engines you may notice I'm not explaining much about is because I'm working on rewriting a few of their cannons. For example, the one problem with a Raven A2 is that I'm going to have to somehow justify him being, because the Raven A2s were all scrapped out by the late 30s. Well, at least from my research. Again, my research could be very wrong. So I'm going to have to say that this engine was somehow around up until at least the 50s. There are a few engines, here's another engine that's getting a rework. This is Remus. The engine was meant to be, in the eventually cancelled Genesis line series, this would have been a foil character. This would have been in the main antagonist, actually. You can notice a certain face pack here. That's partially why he's getting reworked, but also because the fact that, I really need to do more with, him. Here's a newer engine. This engine is a newer addition to my fleet. This is an engine that started out as an RP character, but later became a standard character within my railway. This is William. William is as you can see by his basis, an LNER J11. Very much Scottish. You may be wondering, how does that work? While in here, when the LNER formed, he ended up being relocated to work goods trains in Scotland. He did this job until being replaced by an unknown locomotive and was withdrawn from service. It was saved by a private owner who wanted an unknown man who wanted a private engine, and eventually it was sold to the Northwestern Railway. It would be found out that during World War II, he actually worked on the Northwestern Railway and had, let's just say, less than good things to say about some of the a select few engines. This is also another one of my earlier face packs, but I'm a bit more proud of this one because they turned out a bit better than some of my older face packs. And yes, he even actually is a proper neutral face. This is also one of the very first times I tried out a tired face, where I tried to make him look tired, basing it off of the tired faces you see in animes. I think I went a little overboard with the faces themselves, but who really knows? Let's see. Oh, then you can see down here you have the older version of my OC, which... Yeah, because the face pack is the same hue, he has the updated face pack. Oh yeah, I forgot that this was released. We're right back down to my NWR engines. Sorry. Oh. Yeah, Sodor here, this is an old tag of mine from like a long time ago. Those are all gonna get deleted because they're not really canon anymore. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. So, I guess moving on to some things I've been making outside of the Thomas community. Here's one. This here is, well, actually, not 2771. I forgot I removed his ARM so you couldn't change the number. This is my revamp, the E27A. This is actually meant to be for IWS. This is Nelson's basis. I still gotta work out a few things, like on his model, for example. I gotta go in and make it and script hit on his cylinder and dynamo smoke. Also, this is a bit of an announcement too, real quick. Unfortunately, I lost the files. Well, I actually lost the files for the new intro for IWS, so I'm gonna have to go in and recreate it from scratch. Luckily, I do have a new song. I'm going to be using it's actually the original song that I was intending to use, but I couldn't because of copyright reasons. I found a cover of it, like a pretty decent cover, so hence why I'm going to be using it now. So because of this, the intro is going to be remade from scratch. Also, with my newfound knowledge of creating yards and stuff, I'm going to be going in soon and slightly editing the IWR route to fit what I need it to fit, like to, edit it to fit the series properly, which includes a big Amtrak / NS interchange in Terminus, a shop complex for the engines, and also reworking the CN interchange yard slightly. I don't know why you keep doing this. If you're wondering why I never made a tender for it, it's because I just put I'm basing it off the real locomotive with this number, and from what I could see, it had the same type of tender as the B&O, where is it, the Mikados. I know that could be wrong, but I guess I'll just say for just in case I'm wrong, well, not just gonna say, but I've had this in mind just in case I'm wrong about that part, that they gave him a bit like a Baldwin, B&O like Mikado tender because more water and coal. You can't hear it though, but the engine also has a different whistle than it comes with, being the B&O 03 chime that you actually would have heard on RNN 425. Some things are also going to be remade with this engine. I plan on going in, possibly redoing the texturing on the Alco plate here. I guess, well, since I'm on this topic, I'll show off all the engine models that I'm using for IWS at the moment. Let me find 1520 SLSF here. Here it is. So here's Eric's current model. And you may be wondering, are you going back on the 1520? I will admit, the new version of IWS or IWS Reshuffle, a lot of things are getting rewritten and redone. Eric's storyline in being converted into 1512 is back to 1512 is still going to be a thing, but it's going to be redone completely. So at the moment, this is his current model. It actually does have totals for white walls, which I'm going to be using because I want him to be slightly more of a standout to the rest of the T54s that are in other series. Because I understand the T54 is a really majorly popular to use engine for a Train Z series, so I figured I'd try my best to make Eric stand out. which I did by making his model a bit more accurate to the real-life locomotive. As in real life, 1525 didn't have the disc driver, it had all spoke drivers. And also, I'm giving him white walls because I like the look of the T-54s with white walls. The next engine to show off, I guess, would be Liam then. Liam's model has gotten quite the rework. And not since the intro, fortunately. This is Liam's model. Liam is based off of an NKP S2. I've since gone in and reworked the meshes so they all work out for them like properly now. So now the second number plate actually properly works out and stuff like that. Same with the white balls. So this will be Liam's look. Actually, let me just... There you go. This will be Liam's look for the series. In the series, I'm probably going to give him the Nathan 6-chime 765 War in the 80s, because I really like that sound. But on the main model itself, the engine has the standard Nathan 6-chime you would have heard on 765 in active service. Each of these engines do have somewhat of a story. The ones if I do say their story here, it's likely because it won't be, well, plot relevant. Like, basically, I have plans to bring up some of the engine's own backstories eventually. But for now, a lot of them, I'll let you guys think about what might be their backstories. The only engine I've really teased, though, in terms of his backstory is actually Eric here. Like, I have teased his backstory a lot. Especially with how we got to the railroad. That will be touched on eventually. And it made me wonder where the progress is on the episodes. I'm still waiting for lines for some actors, and I'm also kind of trying to take my time with the series this time, because part of the reason that I started the overhaul process for the series to begin with was because of mass burnout, which stemmed from the fact that I wasn't happy where the original version of the series was going. Because I admit I kind of rushed a few things when I really shouldn't have. Because of that, I'm rewriting the series in its entirety and starting from scratch, basically. The first episode has been completely rewritten, divulges a bit from the original plotline. Next up is, well, the next engine to show off. The next engine I'll show off here is going to be Mason. Mason is a newer character who's actually replacing Niles. So I didn't have a set personality for Niles. I now do. Well, at least for the new character here. Jason, it can be bold and brash at times, but remains humble nonetheless. Like, can be a bit brash at times, but always means well and tries to remain as humble as he can be, especially towards his friends. For the most part, Niles works you'll find Niles hauling slower or local freight trains especially the grain traffic. You'll find him doing that a lot. I should also mention I'm trying to be more consistent with writing the engine's personalities, so I guess I'll explain more of them. Liam is he can be a bit straightforward at times, especially too straightforward for some of the other engines. And also, in some cases, he can be a bit lazy, often trying to find ways sometimes finding ways to pawn off his work, especially for reasons like his own vanity. Also, yes, the headlight, if it's wondered, is a custom mesh where I just pushed it slightly backwards into the slightly back further into the actual thing. And all I did was I edited the ARN right here to shine a bit. Otherwise, the ARN is actually just a standard 765 ARN, except I just recolored it to match. Next up is Eric. Eric is a kind and hardworking engine who typically It will do anything, though he can get a bit reckless at times, especially breaking the speed limits to keep his trains on time, and also can be a little can be under assertive or overly assertive. It really depends on the situation, and is known to have quite the sailor's mouth. Nelson here is a quiet and shy type. He just gets on with his work and doesn't really interact with the other engines much. Some of the engines, though, like their models are getting overhauls. And when I say overhauls, I strictly mean texture-wise, as a lot of the cases, especially with K&L models, they don't really need any mesh work. The most I do is put new smoke scripting, new whir textures that Steve uses, and in some cases, like this one, all new textures, and also new whistle and engine sounds. All of them have their own newer engine sounds. Next up, the next engine is one I actually had to heavily rebuild for the series, specifically for the purposes of the series. It is Harrison. And here he is. Harrison is an ex-Pennsylvania Railroad E7 E7 Atlantic. The E7, this specific engine was actually involved in a bridge collapse. Now, in real life, they have the PRR3 chimes, but I made the meshes for this thing with the Banshee on it, so it's kind of stuck having the Banshee, and I kind of like the way it sounds, so I'm keeping it. Harrison is the railway's secondary express engine, and he's also the main commuting engine alongside Barry, the Amtrak F40PH. You'll find him hauling all sorts of things, and he has a no-nonsense attitude and believes every engine should just tough it out, no matter what. That's that comes from his experience with the bridge collapse. Harrison was actually preserved long before he ended up on the IWR by many different owners, but eventually he found his way onto the IWR after being sold for quite literally the 8th time in his life. The first two times he worked on secondary railroads being eventually absorbed into branch lines from bigger railroads, or on coal mine railroads that eventually dried up. Harrison again has this no nonsense tough it out attitude. This especially makes him unpopular with the select few engines on the line, including Eric and Liam. Next engine, I'm gonna be again completely redoing, including a few my own custom meshes eventually. But the next engine is Michael. Michael in IWS is Reading 2123, the parts engine. Michael we all know the story of 2123, but for those who don't, essentially the engine was used on the Reading's famous Iron Horse Rambles, but not as a locomotive pulling the trains, but as a parts engine. The engine was eventually withdrawn and in real life was scrapped in the 1960s. Hold on, I think it was the 1960s. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I just gotta look this up real quick because I think it was the 1960s. Yep, 1966. Instead, how the history was changed to this. For the IWS was changed to this. Instead of being scrapped, the engine was actually preserved by the IWR, who needed a bigger locomotive for heavier freight assignments. So they bought a fellow T1 from the scrapyard number 2107, which had yet to be cut up, and used its parts to rebuild Liam. Now, when he got to the railroad, they rebuilt him with proper newly forged parts from a local foundry that they were in partnership with to build parts for the locomotives. Liam wasn't exactly happy with this, hearing that he had effectively been that one of his brothers was cannibalized so he could live. But Liam is not Liam. Michael's I've been calling him Liam this whole fucking time. And cussing again. Sorry. But yeah, Michael his name's Michael, not Liam. Michael's a kind-hearted engine who often acts as a mediator between the other engines, but can get quite grumpy especially when the other engines don't listen to him or when they interrupt him sleeping with pointless arguing, like Eric and Liam do quite often. He doesn't lose his temper, however, and well, at least the other engines have yet to see him lose his temper properly. Liam in this like in the IWR, is actually one of the few engines where the whistles are, not his original. The others so far being, being Liam and Harrison. He's fitted with a Hancock 3 chime. Well, a Hancock long bell 3 chime. And also, right, at least with this model, is fitted with a swinging bell, but I'm giving him back his standard pneumatic bell, which is basically like this. Where you can see it just goes ding ding instead of, swinging. It's the only way I can literally think to put it. Or if I want to go all the way, it's a ding ding and not it's supposed to be a ding ding and not a swing swing. And that's an old inside joke from a friend group of mine. Only a few will get the reference. The next engine, I'm taking my time trying to find these engines too, because I don't actually remember what I named some of them. Is this the right one? Yes, it is. This next engine is Jason. He's the railroad's primary express engine, alongside Eric here. They both pull what's called the Indiana Flyer, which before it's thought of, I know I'm a huge Rails to Refuge fan, but I've had IWS at writing since I was a freshman in high school, well over 5 years ago. So the Indiana Flyer was actually based off of the Spirit of Steam Nation from that series. If anyone even remembers that series, you like that series. In fact, I did the very first version of IWS, which was called Tales on the Scenic, was actually based off of the old Steam Nation series. But as of today, I've kind of tried to really do my own thing. But anyway, Jason can be very cocky and stubborn at times, and in some cases is quite rude. However, he always means well, and always does his best to get his work done. But like Eric, has a problem with breaking the speed limits at times, breaking the speed limits. Though of every engine, but not all engines on the railroad can agree Eric is the most reckless in terms of breaking the speed limits. Jason's model, fun fact, has a completely new headlight bay, which is way more accurate to the actual FEFs, thanks to one of my friends who created the mesh. Just like with a lot of my newer models, you can see it has the newer cylinder smoke, and the newer the new dynamo / generator smoke. This engine does have a proper FEF-3 whistle, which I've actually created myself. Actually, don't wait. No, hold on. I just checked the mesh. No, it's not mine. My bad. But I am going to go in and make my own FEF-3 whistle eventually for this thing. So I like having my own whistles on all this. That also includes the PRR Banshee. I've already made my own whistle for this engine for 1525 as well, and for 2711 here. But some of these other engines are either waiting to get their own whistles, or for Michael's case, I'm still in the planning stages of revamping his model in its entirety. The next thing, I guess the next engine is the next engine for the series. Let me take a peek here. Is I think did I finish all the steam engines? Oh no, I still got 2 more. Okay. The next engine actually is going to be receiving his own is going to be receiving a proper is going to receive the proper engine treatment soon. The model itself doesn't need an overhaul. At most, I just want to give it my own, like newer texturing, and also, oh, here's the thing. In some cases, I'm not every engine has the IWR livery, but I'm gonna say there are a few cases where they do get the livery of the IWR. Well, an IWR livery, so for the most part. I think I'm gonna have it to where Micah and Albert, no, Michael and Albert are the only two engines that actually have a proper IWR livery. Or I might give all these engines like Indiana Western lettering or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But anyway, Albert worked as a switcher for the actually worked as a switcher for Canadian National until until he was withdrawn. He was sent to a coal after which he was sent to a coal quarry company called the Alberta Coal Quarry Company, who used him only for a short time in service alongside a CN018A named Charles until being quickly withdrawn afterwards. He was bought by the Indiana Western shortly after and became one of the very first engines on the railroad. The very first itself was actually Liam. Albert worked on the railroad, and Albert currently works on the railroad doing switching jobs at Gunnison, the main yards at Gunnison, Indiana. The next engine is an engine who will be getting a model overhaul. This is Charles. Charles is an 018A switcher. He doesn't work in the main yards like Albert does. Charles works at the oil refinery on the line, switching out oil tankers for the other engines to take out. Either that, or sometimes he'll be found pulling his oil trains to the CN interchange if demand isn't too high. Charles is a bit more of a lenient and laid-back engine. You'll often find him being more of a mentor figure to some of the other engines, especially those who don't deserve it. And though he means well, he has sometimes he can get angry quickly, and that has landed him in some pretty bad situations. The next engine is Barry. Yeah, I know the joke. It was me, Barry. Barry is a F40, as obviously by the looks of things, an F40PH. His story is kind of simple, really. Barry was built and then immediately transferred to work passenger services out of Gunnison, back when the IWR still had proper connections with Amtrak before 1990, when the connection was severed, when they canceled services. But instead of Barry being transferred, the IWR bought Barry after a constant back and forth, ended up buying Barry, who now works along the IWR engines. Because of him working alongside steam engines, he developed quite the humble personality, but just like Nelson, he doesn't talk much. In fact, just like Nelson, he's often quiet and doesn't say much, but when he does, he only talks to a few engines he trusts, including Michael, Harrison, and Eric. The final engine was originally intended to be replaced, but would be retconned entirely, but I decided to keep in the series, but with an all-new basis. I just gotta find the engine class he's supposed to be real quick. Apologies, I'm still trying to find his basis. What did hold on, I'm trying to find his stupid freaking basis. Okay, here he is. I looked at it. I found his basis. Okay, here we go. Yes, I know I'm gonna get shot for this, but like for this and for having this side type of engine, considering I've already been told I have enough overused engine bases, but whatever. This is Ned. Meet Ned. Ned is a Canadian Pacific F2. This, and I realize he has the wrong number. There we go. Ned was built for like Ned actually was preserved, but like Ned himself, not much is known about him other than that he worked, he was preserved, and then eventually the museum he had closed down and gave him up to the IWR, who quickly restored him for operations. Ned mostly hauls the night. It doesn't isn't seen a lot because the fact that he runs the nighttime services, nighttime mail to be exact. Because of this, you'll often end scenes in the IWS series, which will take place mostly during the day. You'll actually find him sleeping in the sheds. He doesn't talk much, and because of that, he doesn't have an assigned voice actor. There are plans to eventually assign him a voice actor and get him, properly into the series. And I think that'll do it for the IWR and IWS engines. I guess finally the next thing to do is show off what I've been properly making over the last while. So I have been making a few updates, which people have probably seen. Seen that I've showed up publicly, which includes my Manor overhaul. This is my most recent addition to that collection. This is a Wabash 01 kit bash. It's not the most accurate, I know, but I did my best with the source material. Like this engine and like is actually a South Lake engine in my own canon. It works with the SLHF hauling, well, SLHF trains. As you can see, I'm still trying to figure a few things out with it. For example, the side rods here are kind of missing a little bit. They're kind of missing something, a little something something. Yeah, and it looks a bit awkward on this side in comparison to the other, which is why I'm mostly showing off this side. This engine, it's one of those ones where I believe now looking at it that you'd likely need to make an all-new locomotive for it to be accurate enough to a proper Wabash 01, but it works. For what it's meant to be, it works. So, actually, I really don't know what to do now. Properly, I don't know what to do now. Like, I didn't honestly. I kind of just flew into this without a plan, like I normally used to do. But I don't actually have an idea of what to do. Damn. I looking at the comments. Yeah. Let's see. What do you think about our show? I'm actually really excited to see Full Buccaneers come back, and I'm really glad to see that it has such a high quality production team. I'm really hoping the best for its future. That's really all I can say about it. I'm just hyped for its future and wish it all the best. Okay. I don't have anything else to really say or add to anything, so I guess this will be it for the stream. I'm will I do more StreamYard streams? Maybe. I don't know. I guess the future will tell. Yeah, the future will tell if I do more of these. So for now, I guess I'll check. Fuck. So what did I used to say? I guess this is Nighttime Challenger signing off.